So we're going to check those in just a moment. Today we are combining a few things that we've done in the past. So we have to know the forms of our sine and our cosine. Okay, we know this value in front, that A is the amplitude, but do we remember what kind of transformation it is, what it does to the graph? Not left or right. Yeah, it's a vertical stretch or compression. Okay, so we're going to identify what these variables are and then what they affect on the graph, because that is going to help us when we are making our tables today. Okay, so this A, we know that it's going to change the amplitude. What is the amplitude change? Yes, okay, so it's going to affect those max and min values. Okay, and yes, it's going to tell us what the amplitude is. Great. Okay, now earlier we were working with values of B that were 1. Now we're going to see that sometimes that's going to change. Notice the position of B here. It is outside of the parentheses. Okay, and B is going to be a horizontal stretch or compression. Okay, so think about the axes, right? So the vertical axis is the y, so that's the max and the min. The horizontal axis is the x, and so this is going to affect what? Yeah, the period. Okay, so the period is related to the x-axis, so this affects your period. Okay, and then your h value. Do you remember what h is from last week? Not in this case. In geometry, though. But in this case, what is it?
It's the thing that you add or subtract.
Yep. So it's a horizontal translation. We call that a yes. What kind of shift?
Phase.
Yep. Okay. So a phase shift, and that is going to be the same thing as a horizontal translation. So it moves it left or right. Okay, so that means it's going to affect the x-axis. Okay, and it moves your graph left or right. So you guys might remember that when we do have a phase shift, that's why we start at the phase shift value, because instead of starting at 0, we're either moving it to the right or we're moving it to the left. Okay, so that's why when we do our charts, we're always going to start with that h value. And also remember, it's the opposite of what you see. So if you see a negative, your h is positive. If you see a positive, the h value is negative. All right, and then our k value, do you guys remember what that transformation is called? Yep, it's going to be a vertical translation or a vertical shift. Okay, so this is going to affect your max and min because it's going to move the y values up and down. So this is something that you saw in that preview packet. You did some where you would move the graph up or down towards the back of the packet. And then not only does it move the max and the min, it's going to move the x-intercept. So in all the graphs we've been doing up until this point, we've had that x-intercept because we haven't done the translation in our note guides. And so today we're going to take that into account. And it is just going to be either adding or subtracting that value onto our max, our min, or the intercept. Okay, so there's just some more things that we have to look out for here. Okay? All right, so in example 1, we're using the parent function as a guide. Okay, and then we're going to identify the amplitude, period, and phase shift. So I already had you do some of that for part A. Okay, so Akul, what'd you get for your amplitude for part A?
1.
Yep, so if you don't see a number in front, it's going to be 1. Royal, what'd you get for your period?
5.
Good, so it's going to be 2 pi over b. So it's 2 pi over 2. That reduces to pi. Great. Okay, now it also says to say what the phase shift is, but there's nothing being added or subtracted, so there's no phase shift. You can just write that h is equal to 0. Okay, so if there's no phase shift, your h value is going to be 0. Okay, what we do have to note here is that if you have the +1, that is a vertical shift. Okay, so I usually just put VS up 1. All right, so there are a lot of similarities between what we've already done. So you might recall from day 1, we always started at H. Do you guys remember where we ended? It was H plus P, so yeah, the period. So if your H value is 0, which ours is, we're going to start at 0. Okay, if there's no phase shift, we start at 0, and then we end at the period, because 0 plus pi is still going to be pi. All right, and then the next thing we're going to find is the halfway point. So halfway between 0 and pi over 2. Halfway between 0 and pi over 2, pi over 4. And then once you know that, you're counting by pi over 4. So 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4 is pi, so you know that you have your units correct. Okay, now when you're filling in the y's now, this is a sine function. So we are using the parent to graph this. So let's just recall real quick what our sine parent looks like. That's where we started at 0, 0, we end at 0, 0, halfway is 0, 0, and then we do the max and then the min. Okay, so these are the 5 key values that we're going to put on our chart, but now there's some shifts to them. So instead of starting at 0, if there's a vertical shift up 1, instead of at 0, we're going to be at 0 plus 1, which will be what? 1, yep. Okay, so then if you start at 1, you're going to end at 1. So for the sine, it's the same start, end, and middle. So start, end, and middle are all 1. Okay, so the x-intercept gets moved. So it was at 0, now we're adding 1. Okay, and then we reach the max here, and then we do the min. So in order to calculate our new max and min, we're going to use our amplitude, and then we're going to apply the phase shift. So you can always find the max by doing the amplitude and then adding your vertical shift. So I'm going to put plus VS. So if my amplitude is 1, this is just going to be 1 plus, we're going up 1, so 1 plus 1, our maximum is going to be 2. So I'm going to put that here for my max. Okay, the min is very similar, okay, but there are a few differences. So for the min, instead of doing the amplitude, you do the opposite of the amplitude, and then you add the vertical shift. So if your amplitude is 1, the opposite is -1. Your vertical shift in this case is +1. So when you add those together, you're going to get 0. So that's our new minimum. All right, and then you can decide if you want to make everyone pi over 4, you can do that. If you want to do every other one is pi over 4, that's fine too. And you're really just counting here. So you have 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, and then reduce where you can. 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4 reduces to pi. So when I'm listing these, I am just counting and I am just reducing. And you have to keep that same scale. Just like we've done before, we're always spanning the grid. We're always labeling this underneath. All right, so at 0, I'm at 1. At pi, I'm at 1. Halfway, I'm at 1. Pi over 4, I'm at 2. Okay, and then you can see you have this wave here that's being compressed horizontally, and it has moved up 1. And then we're just going to finish the pattern. Okay, so if it's middle, min, middle, max, middle, min, and it's 2 over, and then 2 over middle, 2 over max, 2 over middle, and then it would be 2 over min. All right, let's try part B. So again, you guys already found your amplitude and your period. So Caleb, what'd you get for your amplitude here? 2, yep. And then Cody, what'd you get for the period? Yes, so the B value in front of the X is a 1. So 2 pi divided by 1 is just going to be 2 pi. Okay, and then we're going to do our phase shift. Okay, and then Bella, can you tell me what the phase shift is for this? What your value of H is?
Pi.
Close. Just close, just the opposite.
-pi.
Yeah, good. Okay, so negative pi. So it's always going to be the opposite. So if you see the plus, you are moving this to the left. Okay, this is what it means. You don't have to write this out every time. I just want you to understand why we do need that negative so that it's starting at the right place. Okay, so we're going to start at negative pi. So we always start at H. And then we're going to end at H plus the period. Okay, so if we do negative pi plus the period, negative pi plus 2 pi is pi, and then halfway in between negative pi and pi is 0. Guess I'll use a different one. All right, and then halfway between negative pi and 0 would be negative pi over 2. Halfway between here, pi over 2. Okay, so keep in mind with the cosine, we start at the max, we end at the max, halfway's the min, then we have the x-intercept. There is no vertical shift here, which means you don't have to worry about moving that up or down. Okay, so we can just use the amplitude to help us. So if the amplitude's 2, that's your max. Okay, your min would be the opposite. And then you just have your 0 and your 0. Okay, so we're always using our parent function to help. The max, the min, and then those are your halfway points. Okay, so you're keeping those in mind as you are graphing. Okay, so this is H, this is H plus P. Okay, so then again, you can go every other one, or you can do every one by pi over 2. That's your choice. So if I do 1 pi over 2, then 2 pi over 2 is pi, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2 is 2 pi. And you don't have to write all of them on the left. You just write a couple. Okay, so now at negative pi, I'm at 2. At pi, I am also at 2. Okay, and then halfway in between, I'm at negative 2. Halfway in between those, I am at 0. Okay, and then remember, if you're having trouble with the curve, I usually just take 3 and then do my curves from there. So this would be the middle here. And then 1, 2. And then just remember, you do want to bounce that back up. Don't put the arrow down, okay? Because that is the minimum value. So you can't go below that. Okay, and then we're connecting those with the curves. All right, so for part C, why don't you guys go ahead and do the amplitude, the period, and then see if you can do the start of the chart and the end of the chart. All right, so Alex, what'd you get for your amplitude? Yep. And then Jack D, what'd you get for your period? Yep. And then your vertical shift, this is your K value. So your vertical shift is this -1. Okay, that means you're going down 1. Okay, so you need that for your max and your min. Okay, so Nihal, can you tell me what your max is going to be and how you got it? No, so let's do the amplitude. So what's your amplitude? Yeah, so what's your amplitude? Yep, and then if you're going down 1, the 3 minus 1, that's how you'll get the 2. All right, and then Megan, can you tell me what the min's going to be? Okay, so let's do it together. So it's always the opposite of your amplitude. So what's the opposite of your amplitude here? -3, and then we're just going to apply this k value. So if it's down 1, yep, it'll be -4. Okay, so that's your max, that's your min. Okay, and then our h value, Allison, what's our h value going to be? Yep, and it will be positive pi over 2. Okay, so when you're doing your chart, you have your x, your h of x. Okay, so you have pi over 2 to start. Okay, and then Shalini, how am I going to find what this is, where I'm ending? What am I going to put together? Is the phase shift plus? Yeah, so that means we're going to do pi over 2 plus 2 pi. So when you're combining these together, you really can think of it, this is just 2 plus a half. Do you guys know how you'd write that as a fraction? 5 over 2, so it's just 5 pi over 2. You can also get a common denominator. So if you do times 2 times 2, 4 pi plus 1 would be 5 pi. So whatever way you want to go about that is fine. Okay, and then you do need to find the halfway point. If finding it with algebra feels like a lot for you mentally, then what I'm going to recommend is you use your graph to help you do that. So if it's pi over 2, we can go by pi over 2's. So 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 4 pi over 2 is 2 pi. 8 pi over 2 would be 4 pi. Okay, so really what's happening here is every other one is going to be pi. So you have -pi, -2 pi, because if you're going by halves, right? So sometimes that can help. And this is cosine. So with cosine, you're going to start at your max. So we saw the max was 2. And then you end at your max. And then halfway is your min, which we calculated was -4. Okay, and then if you want to find out what this is, you can just start at pi over 2, you're at 2. At 5 pi over 2, you're at 2. To find the halfway, you can just count. So see how this is 1, 2, 3, 4 apart? So if you just go to 1, 2, okay, you can go to -4 here. And then do you see how this is at 3 pi over 2? So we can just put that in our chart. So if you like that better, you can think of it that way. And then the next is going to be halfway in between. So between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2 is pi. So what you're really adding by in your table is pi over 2. So pi over 2 plus itself is 1 pi plus a half, 3 pi over 2 plus another half, 4 pi over 2, which is 2 pi. Now, it's not going to be at 0 anymore, and the only reason why is because of this -1. So in between, it used to be at 0, but now we have to subtract 1. So 0 minus 1, -1. Okay, it really is halfway in between these 2 points once you have your max and your min. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apart. So 1, 2, 3 down. You can think of it that way. Okay, so if this is 1 apart, we go back to the middle, down, middle, up. And again, I usually just take the 3 to do my curve, and then okay, and then if you want, do you guys see how every 2 you have your here? So just go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then you just flip the max and the min. So do we feel like we're getting the hang of things? I like to do the 3. So like I start with a parabola, then I have my other parabola. Okay, so now the last thing we're going to talk about is if the value of b is not 1, because we really haven't seen that with these phase shifts. Okay, so if there's a phase shift and the value of b is not 1, we have to factor it out. Okay, so you'll notice your b value is here. The only problem is we can't see what the phase shift is until we factor it out because b needs to live in front of the parentheses. Okay, so factoring something out is really just dividing. So if you factor out a 2, you do 2x divided by 2, what do you get? X. Okay, so just like that, negative pi divided by 2 is negative pi over 2. Okay, so this is your function. So we can do the amplitude. Okay, so if there's nothing multiplied, the amplitude is 1. Okay, your period is 2 pi over 2, which reduces to pi. Your phase shift, okay, is pi over 2. So it's not pi, okay? You have to use this one here. Okay, and then your vertical shift, we're going down 3. So we are going to have to subtract 3. And then like I showed you on the last one, I think it's easier to just calculate what your max and your min are. Because you can always do your amplitude and then apply the shift. So your amplitude is 1. So for the max, it's 1 minus 3. For the min, you do the opposite, minus 3. Okay, so our max is negative 2. Our min is negative 4. Okay, so just like we've done many times before, we're going to put our key values here. So we always start with h. So we're starting with pi over 2. Okay, we're going to do h plus the period. So pi over 2 plus pi is 3 pi over 2. And again, feel free to get a common denominator if you like that the best. It is 1/2 plus 1, so that's 3/2. Do you guys know what's in between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2? Pi. If you don't, remember, we're just going to be counting, okay? So, do you guys know what's between pi over 2 and pi? It has to, yeah, it's 3 pi over 4, because what's between 1/2 and 1? 3/4, right? Like between 50 cents and $1 would be 75 cents. Okay, so we're going to label these. So 1 pi over 2, and then pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi. If you're ever not sure what to do, try to break them into quarters. Okay, but if every other one is pi over 2, just remember, this is pi over 4 because it's half of it. So that's what you're counting by. 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4. Okay, so you can use your graph to help you. So this is sine. So with sine, we usually start at the intercept, but now I have to move that down 3. So I'm going to start at negative 3. I'm going to end at negative 3. Halfway is negative 3. Okay, so at pi over 2, I'm at 1, 2, negative 3. Okay, at 3 pi over 2, I'm at negative 3. Halfway, I'm at negative 3. And then I have my max and my min. So I'm at negative 2, negative 4. You can see this little sine curve here. Okay, so halfway in between, this was 3 pi over 4. And then I'm just going to keep counting. This is 4 pi over 4. So this one is 5 pi over 4. Okay, and then we just keep doing our pattern. So up, middle, min. Okay, min, middle, max. Middle, min, middle, max. Middle, min, middle, max. All right, now with this one, there's two new things. We have this negative in front. Do you guys remember what the negative does? Yep, it flips the order of the max and min. So that means there's a reflection. There's a negative, there's a reflection, and it flips the order of your max and min. Okay, we also have to factor out this 3 because your b value is not 1. Okay, so if we take out the 3 here, remember we're just dividing. So 3x divided by 3 is x. If you do pi over 2 divided by 3, that's the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. So what's pi over 2 times 1/3? Pi over 6. So this is just plus pi over 6. So you have negative 2 cosine. And there's no vertical shift for this one, so we don't have to worry about that here. Okay, but we are going to find the amplitude, which amplitude is always positive. Okay, so it's positive 2 is your amplitude. Okay, the a value is negative 2, but the amplitude is 2. Okay, your period is 2 pi divided by 3. 3 is your b. Okay, and then there's no vertical shift, but you do have a phase shift. And now you can see it's a negative pi over 6. Okay, it's not the pi over 2. Okay, and there's no vertical shift for us to worry about here. All right, so we always just start with that h value. So we're going to start with negative pi over 6. And then to find the last one, we always take that, add it to the period. Now, if you're doing negative pi over 6 plus 2 pi over 3, I do recommend getting the common denominator. So that would be negative pi plus what? 4 pi. So negative pi plus 4 pi would be 3 pi. So it's 3 pi over 6. What does that reduce to? Yep, pi over 2. So that's going to be the last one. Okay, so this is h plus the period. Okay, so we're going to go by pi over 6. We're going to use our graph this time to help us with the middle values. So pi over 6, 2 pi over 6 is pi over 3. 3 pi over 6 is pi over 2. You have 4 pi over 6, 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, 8, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and I'm really writing a lot of these down just to help us with this, but you do want to write down some of your key points there. So now you can see like you're really going every other one by negative pi over 3. So this would be negative 1 pi over 3, negative 2 pi over 3, negative 3 pi over 3. So this is cosine. So we usually start at the max, but we're going to change it. And it's going to be the min, and then the max in the middle. Okay, so if there's no vertical shift for the min, you're just using the opposite of your amplitude, of your amplitude value. Your max is your amplitude value. Okay, and then the intercepts are going to stay the intercepts. So at negative pi over 6, which is right here, negative pi over 6, I'm at negative 2. Okay, at pi over 2, I'm at negative 2. So let's find the halfway mark. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, halfway is going to be where? Pi over 6. So this is cosine. So halfway, I'm at 2. Okay, and then halfway in between these, you'd have 0. And that's going to be at 0. Halfway in between these two, 0. Halfway in between, you can see is pi over 3 from your graph. Okay, and then we're just going to continue that pattern. So middle, max, middle, min. Middle, max. And then here we have middle, min, middle, max. Middle, min, middle, max. Middle. All right, so I'm going to give you your homework sheet and your graph sheet. So remember, you just have to put all of your graphs on that trig paper.